Canaan, it's all about Jesus.
It's not about religion, it's about relationships.
Where beginners are welcome.
Where forgiveness is offered.
Where hope is alive.
And it's okay to not be okay.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's Canaan STL podcast. This is Daniel Carr. I'm here with Pastor Martin Winslow and a very special guest. So today we have Tiffany Delapp with us, and Tiffany is one of her own. She's a member here at Canaan, and she's from Imperial, Missouri, and she's been married for 4 years, 6 children, 1 in heaven, and 5 living here with us. She and her husband are a blended family of 3 girls and 2 boys. And she's a client services manager at a local pregnancy center called Hand in Hand, which we as Canaan partner with. And she's also a leader for Surrendering the Secret Healing Ministry. Tiffany, we were glad to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
So Hand in Hand is one of our partners here at Canaan, as we mentioned. So could you just start out by telling us a little bit about the ministry there and exactly what it is that Hand in Hand does?
Sure. Hand in Hand is a nonprofit educational resource center dedicated to providing support for women and men who are experiencing an unplanned pregnancy. We believe that everyone should be have full access to all of the information on the pregnancy options that are out there. So.
And you come into contact, I'm sure, with lots of different women with, coming with unplanned pregnancies, and they're coming with all kinds of questions around that. And I was just curious, kind of as a partner here, do you have the freedom to share the gospel with these young women? And what does that look like for you?
Yes, absolutely. That is one of our key things that has to happen. So we don't require anything as far as, there's not any pay, what's their pay scale? Some places, some centers, in order to receive services in that, they have to do something first to earn it. We don't do that. And so what we do require, though, is that they come. So their initial visit, we just kind of get to know them a little bit. And of course, we share the gospel. Anytime we are in the counseling room with them, we always share the gospel. We give them a Bible the very first visit. It's usually just a New Testament Bible, an easy kind of, a little bit easier to read kind of thing. We have many, many resources. We have gospel tracts and just different things like that we share with them. But then a requirement, if they're going to continue to receive like material needs from us, is just that they do an update every 4 months. And at that time, then we are checking where they're at. Have you been able to get to a church? We want to try to direct them to a church of some sort. We have a resource list of all different churches in the area. And then, we just kind of see where they're at, and we'll share the gospel again. There are beautiful stories of women who have come to Christ and in those years in past. I personally have not seen that happen yet. Right. But from what my experiences with me meeting with the girls are very attentive to the gospel. Some know it already. Some are already going to church. Yeah. Some women are married and have a family, and this is a planned pregnancy, right. But they're just in a hard time and need some help. But like I said, the other times, if they are looking for abortion, a lot of times they are meeting with the nurse primarily, and she is also post-abortive, which she is she gives us a permission to share that, but right. She will share that information too. And of course it always goes to the gospel and what God believes or what God says about abortion and that. So
we're thrilled to be partnering with you guys and thankful that you all will share the gospel with these young women in a difficult time in their life. And I'm just curious, you said post-abortive, like just explain that to, our listeners. Maybe.
Yeah. Someone who has had an abortion in their past, abortion or abortions. Okay. So yeah. Okay.
Wow. Awesome. So Tiffany, this is not something you just randomly chose to be a part of one day. This passion of yours, this calling of yours really is interwoven into your own life story. Mm-hmm. And so would you mind just kind of telling your story to our listeners and just how God has worked in your life to bring you to this point?
Absolutely. So I was not raised in any Christian home, no Christian morals, values, nothing of the sort. And with that being said, I also didn't have a lot of just in general guidance of much. And so I was dating around quite a bit. This was after high school, and I think I was around 22 years old, and I met some guy at a bar, and a couple weeks later found out I'm pregnant. And this guy wanted to pursue his baseball career and wanted no part of it, and said, here's the money. My mom was adamant that this child will ruin my life. I will not have a life. You're gonna ruin the child's life. On and on. Although I was 22, I still felt as though I had no choice. I was fearful. I was scared. I had no one in my life who was able to give me support that I felt. So she made the appointment. I did none of the work. She made the appointment, and I didn't even know of any other resources out there, that there even was pregnancy help centers or anything of the sort. So this was November of 1998, and I went into Planned Parenthood, and I blocked out majority of that day. I do remember a few things here and there. I remember the walking in, and it was quiet, somber. The other girls around were just kind of all sitting with their heads down. And then, they were calling names. They called my name. I go into a room, like an operating room-ish, but it wasn't like a typical, I don't know. It was just different. It was almost like I was put on a sterile table it was like a hard, sterile table. It wasn't like a hospital bed or something you would see, if you go into a doctor's office. And I remember that being cold and dark in there. They had the ultrasound machine turned away from me. And then I remember the sound of the vacuum. It sounded like a vacuum. And that's it. That's what I remember of that day, other than going home and then just crying, and crying for days and days. And then, I had to snap out of it, swallow it, and move on. And so days, weeks, months, years to follow just was a self-destructive life. Depression, drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, extreme anger. I was a very angry person, bitter at the world. And so that was my life for a long time. Fast forward to 2013, and that is when it was actually Thanksgiving of 2013. And at this point, I had cut off my family. My family wanted nothing to do with me. Again, I was just an angry person. Not anyone wanted to be around, really. And so I spent that Thanksgiving at a bar and with a couple friends, and we went to a party. Well, it wasn't a party, actually. It was just a gathering of some friends. And I remember being in the house and just feeling like, I need some fresh air. And it was cold. I remember it being cold. And I went out to my car, and it was weird. I turned on 91.1 Joy FM. I mean, don't listen to that station on a regular basis at the time or ever, actually. And whatever song was on, it was God Met Me right there. And it was my first time. And I don't know, it was a crazy moment. And I felt the need I needed to call my family. And it's 9:30 at night at this point. Thanksgiving's over. Everybody's gone home. And I just called my dad and stepmom, and I just apologized, and I'm crying. And I said, I'm going to change. God's changing me. And yeah, we've heard that before. Not that God's changing me, but they've heard me say, oh yeah, I'm going to be different now. I'm changing. And I've done it. I tried so many times. I didn't like who I was. But when you try to change on your own, it's pretty difficult, if not impossible. And in my case, impossible, because I tried it for many years. And so, from that point on, God continued to just reveal my sin to me, brought me to my knees, and it, I don't know, it just continued to, he just continued to open my eyes to things. And as the time went on, then, I kind of church hopped for a little while, and I came upon, actually, I had someone invited me to Canaan, and I remember coming here for a little while, and there was that September, I guess, that following year was, actually, it was probably a couple years later, actually, because God worked on me for many years before I could even still talk about abortion, because in my mind, that was the sin that was unforgivable. My other sin, I was brought forward and I knew he forgave me for it. But the abortion one was not a forgivable sin. And so, so Canaan was doing a serve day, and there was a sign up sheet for many different places, and I saw Hand in Hand Pregnancy Center, and it was like this big flashing light in my head that I got to go there. And I signed me and my husband up, and we went, and I remember walking in there, and it was like, the angels were singing. It was just, I could feel God's presence as I walked in that door. And I still do. Every single day, I still do. And it just was amazing what they do, how they do. I was asking questions the whole time as we're going through this. And, we did different things, cut diapers and package them up, or sort clothes, and just different things, as we were helping out there. And at the end, I just knew I had to volunteer here. Like, how can I get into this place? And so I talked with Ginger afterwards, and I did share that, which was the first time that I did share that I have a past abortion. And she said, okay, well, before we can have you volunteer, we do require that you go through an abortion healing class. And so they offer what we call ARM, Abortion Recovery Ministry. And that is, we use the curriculum, Surrendering the Secret, which is a scripture-based Bible study. It's 8 weeks. And I went through that. And once again, God just opened up doors and tore down walls that were up of my heart. And I saw that God does forgive me for that sin.
Amen.
Yes, absolutely. And so from that point, then, like I said, doors just started opening. And I did remember saying at the end of that class, because at the end, they talk about where do you go from here? What is your purpose, kind of thing. Some may have a purpose of, like me, and I'm out doing this, but there's other purposes, that women can do. And so one of the things I remember saying is, I'm going to share my testimony on Facebook. I'm going to put it out there and for everybody to see. And, actually last year was the first time I got the courage, and I did share it on Facebook for the first time. I just wrote it out. Yeah. But then, of course I had the opportunity to share here, and I had, an opportunity. I was contacted, for a podcast called Abortion Hurts, God Heals. And it's actually based in Texas, I believe. But I did that one. And then, and then I guess, I don't know, just obviously sharing when at the pregnancy center, I've shared a couple times with girls who are abortion minded or abortion vulnerable. And,
let me ask you a question. So you mentioned earlier, after the abortion that you began to kind of go downhill. You got into drugs and alcohol, a lot of promiscuity and things like that. I just wondered if that's a cycle that you see in a lot of these women who come in who have, who are considering an abortion, or maybe have even had an abortion in the past and now they're pregnant again. Is that a similar thing that you see because of the anxiety, depression that the sin causes? Is that normal?
Absolutely. Very, very common. And not just in our center, but in different studies that have been done. It is very, very common. I think it's a pretty high percentage, like 80% of women. That regret may not happen immediately. I will say for me, it was immediate. But then it's not talked about again. And so it squashes down. And so in order to cope with that, that's when all these other things can come into play. And there's some women who have way even more post-traumatic stress is part of, is an effect of an abortion. Like I said, some women don't have that, right. And it could be years later. Before they
just from what you were describing, your experience at Planned Parenthood, that's a pretty traumatic environment and experience. Just the way you explained the sterile cold table that wasn't padded or cut. It was just cold metal, sounds like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just brutal. Just the whole experience. Definitely traumatic.
And
you know what I love though is what you said. It was almost like a contrast of walking indoors. Then you talked about when you walked into hand in hand, like it was
absolutely.
life, and there's diapers were cutting and doing. It really is a contrast of like worldviews almost.
Yeah.
You walk into one and it's a place of death and horror, and another one is life.
It's really connected to what we're talking about this Sunday, spiritual warfare.
Absolutely.
I mean, you walk into Planned Parenthood where there's the slaughter of the innocent going on. That's demonic.
Absolutely.
But you go into you go into hand in hand. Yeah. And it's light. It's the Lord. It's, choosing life and honoring God, and it's warfare. So you just experience that oppression or that liberty.
Right.
As you walk in. So that's a powerful story.
Absolutely.
It's a powerful story.
And, God has continued though, just to say, once in my life, once I have given that sin up and given God complete control, I continue to see doors open. Sometimes there's stagnant, time where nothing's happening, and sometimes you don't see or hear God. But when I started volunteering. Once I finished my class, I did start going and volunteering on Wednesdays once a week for a little while, and I guess about 2 years. And then in September of 19, the founders and directors came to me and offered me a position on staff. And they have lots of volunteers. Yep. And I remember I asked him, I just said, Gary, I said, of everybody, why did you choose me? I mean, I don't know. I was shocked. I was just shocked. And I'd only been there 2 years. And he just said, we're looking for someone with passion, and you have the passion. And I didn't really think of it like that, I guess. I don't know. It's just, God's just done this. I have done nothing. I'm just listening to him, because there's no way in the world I could have done any of this without him. And like I said, it just continues to open doors. I was a co-leader with Surrendering the Secret, and the leader actually just moved. She's moving today. I miss her dearly. She's been an amazing godly mentor in my life since starting with Surrendering the Secret. And she is, like I said, she's moving. So now I am leading. Actually, I start Wednesday, starting with a woman to go through that healing process. It's been beautiful.
That is awesome. What a great picture of what the Lord does. Redemption. He takes probably one of the worst thing you could go through, and he leverages that to bring about your purpose, your drive, the way you're going to serve and honor him. That's just incredible. Yeah. That which became your worst ended up becoming the source of your whole direction in life.
And it just proves him using all things.
That's right.
For good.
That's right. Romans 8:28. Yes.
That's like one of my favorite scriptures in my life right now. It's been a go-to for me. Yeah.
I quote that a lot. Some people say I quote it too much, but it's such a powerful verse.
It's
That's
so
right.
true.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tiffany, let me ask you a question. So, and this happens all the time. So it's a real life question. Let's say, a young lady goes off to college and she makes a mistake with a young man, ends up pregnant, calls home, is just talking to mom. And let's say she grew up in church, they have a Christian background. What advice would you give for that mom in that time who's counseling this daughter? Maybe they've hidden it from dad even, the young girl is thinking, my college career is over, my future. They start thinking of all these things, pragmatically. What kind of advice would you give to that family?
Find a pregnancy resource center near you, and then let them talk with you. They're there specifically for these kind of situations. Now, in our case, the directors, the founders, actually were faced with their son's unplanned pregnancy. And so they have the grandparent perspective, and they have talked with our clients' parents, and it sheds light to them that this doesn't just affect the mom. This is a trickle-down effect. It will affect the father one way or another, the father of that baby. But then, of course, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, they're all missing out on this baby if they choose to abort. But there's also the options of adoption, and our adoption, the way the adoption procedures work now are way different than they used to be. I don't know a lot about abortion, so I can't really speak on that, but I do know that there's so many wonderful Christian adoption facilities out there that, just do beautiful, and they're open adoptions where you can still have a relationship with that baby. And that's where a lot of the stigma is, I can't give my baby up. You're not giving your baby up. You're giving your baby to a beautiful, another family that can provide what you can't at the time, but you can still be in contact and all of those things. I mean, we hear wonderful stories of that. So there's lots of, there's just people that can speak into that mom and to those parents of the client to really
so they can relieve those fears.
Yes.
And give them options.
Give them true options.
Makes sense.
So many success stories that I hear of these moms that are faced with an unplanned pregnancy, but go on to be on the dean's list in college and go on to get their master's degree and then start a career. I mean, it happens all the time, but it's not talked about in the culture, as we know.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I read from an article from Focus on the Family this past Sunday. It was a 2018 article, and in it, they said that statistics show that 4 in 10 women who have an abortion have actually a churched background. Is that something that you see a lot with young people coming in?
Yes.
You're observing that?
Yes. And I think from my perspective, just from what I'm hearing around, is a lot of churches don't talk about it. And so I'm so thankful for you guys doing that here, because it's a pretty big number, and it's not even just the women. There's the men that have been affected as well. And they are kind of the forgotten tool in this, because they are conditioned to have no say, have no right. And it's something that
traumatic for them as
absolutely.
well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And can cause a lot of guilt and all down the line.
Yeah, and that stress, that post-traumatic stress, will affect them in different ways, but it's definitely there. They may or may not ever admit it, but it's there. Especially the men who push their the mother to get it. You know, like in my case, the guy paid for it. Here, take the money, and that was the end. I never saw or heard from him again. And so, it needs to be out there, and there are healing curriculums for men now. There's more and more coming out. That is a future goal of our pregnancy center, is to have something like that for men. We're not there yet. It takes a lot of legwork and a lot of volunteers. And right now we have no men volunteers. So we need to get, some more men in the ministry. And that's, again, that's a goal, and we're praying for it, and it'll happen when God sees
so some of you listeners out there who are of the male type, I hope you heard that.
Yes.
Yep.
Before I forget to say this, when we talked about the pregnancy center, there are services that we offer there besides just a pregnancy test and an ultrasound.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it's important, because sometimes the pro-choice side will say, "Oh, those pro-lifers, they're just here for the birth of the baby, or make sure the baby is saved, but then that's it. And then they just let them fend for themselves," and that's so untrue. Right. Our services, like I said, we do a test and an ultrasound confirmation. All of our services are free. Once they get a test through us, we do a Caring Hands program, which is like parenting classes. It's once a month for 8 months, and it's meeting one-on-one with a caregiver, and they watch videos, how to take care of a crying baby, or, what to expect when you labor and delivery, what to expect when you come home, your first week's home with the baby, and just different things like that, how to eat healthy during your pregnancy, and different things like that. But each time as well, you get an incentive gift, something new for the baby. On the 6th, I believe, visit, they get this big layette just full of things. Some are new, some are donated, but it's donated almost perfect items
Right.
for that. But then they also have the option to choose a large item, like a crib or a car seat, mattress, baby swing, and that sort of thing. Brand
great.
new.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times some of these moms don't get baby showers. And so these big items are necessary.
They're expensive too.
Yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. When I was there, just walking in, I could not believe the large storeroom you have
It is.
of what people donate or what you guys are able to purchase, and just all of the items you have to bless these moms.
And we
It's
have
incredible.
a special, section of our budget that goes specifically to Caring Hands, so that we can make sure we have the money to purchase these bigger items that they may need.
Yeah.
Now we also do a Get Connected meeting once a month with the moms. And again, right now it's just the moms. But we do have childcare for their children, so they can come kind of have a night out. It's an hour and a half. We have food, and it was on pause for a little while during, some stuff happening.
Right.
We had to pause it for quite a while.
Yeah.
But we are doing it again with the COVID procedures in place. But we have speakers come, and talk life situations. Like we've had the fire department come and talk about fire safety. We've had, like this next month, we have someone coming in and talking about fine motor skills and, development with your baby and your child as they grow, just different things like that. But then usually the last half hour or so, we dedicate to a devotional. So once again, we're sharing, the gospel and just how, a lot of times we try to tie in the devotional with the topic. And so far it's worked out really well. But a lot of these moms, we've learned that, they don't go to church. And so this is their church.
Yeah.
However, we don't promote it as their church. We always encourage them to get connected to a local church. But it is an opportunity for them to, and again, we give them a Bible, and, we hopefully are able to encourage them to get in the Word and that sort of thing.
It might be the first door.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's the idea.
That's right.
That's definitely the idea behind it.
Yeah.
Another cool thing with the Get Connected is if you come to 4 meetings, you can earn yourself a brand new crib. Now, we have cribs that have been donated, and so we do still have cribs to offer if they choose to not do that option. But it is, again, an incentive to get them connected to other moms, to get them to get connected to a devotional, hopefully, even if it's once a month, or hearing God's Word.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of wonderful things that it's us walking alongside them once they choose life, and to see that they're not alone and there's stuff out there.
Right.
And we serve their children up to age 2.
That's awesome.
Some centers will do longer than that, but for us, that's what we are able to do at this
It's
time.
a huge benefit. Though. That's great.
Yeah. Every week they can come in and get all things they need.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
So I'm sure we have some listeners here who may either now or in the future know someone who needs the services of Hand in Hand. So how would they go about getting into contact with you or with Hand in Hand? What's the best means to do that?
Well, I know we're in a technology world, so we are our website is pregnancybarnheart.com, and that is our client site. That's if they want to learn more about how to get in contact with us, because some you can contact via the website.
Okay.
We also have our email, info.handphc.org. So it's HANDN, the letter N, HANDPHC.org.
Okay.
We have our phone number. You can call anytime. We do have a recording if there's nobody there. That number is 636-464-8400.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been incredible.
Thank you.
We're just so thankful for what the Lord's doing in your life and using you to impact so many other people now. So, and it sounds like it's only just begun.
Yeah, I think
exciting.
so. I don't know. I'm just going along with whatever he's got, but
Yeah.
it's
We're
amazing.
excited to partner with you, to partner with Hand in Hand,
Yes.
just doing the Lord's work there of saving lives, because
Thank you.
God's all about life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks for everybody listening today, and tune in next week. Next week we have another. 2 weeks we have another special guest. 2 weeks we have William Federer going to be with us as we talk about civil disobedience. So that's going to be a fun one. And then next week we'll be talking about spiritual warfare. So some neat stuff coming up. So don't miss an episode. Well, God bless. We'll talk to y'all real soon. Have a great week.